Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another Talk Within the Nine-Sided Circle, our regular Sunday talk. I am your other host, Mushtaq Ali, because your host, Noor Kyle, is at home with her family this week, and that's all the way across the country. So she decided that this would be a perfect time for me to do this all by my lonesome. So I am just fixing something here. There we go. So, do we have any announcements? No, there are no announcements for tonight other than the usual, which is we would be ever so grateful if you subscribe to our channel. And if you liked our video, we need for you to like our video because there are people who hate our videos and we need the likes to balance out the hates. So, I mean, you don't even have to watch it, just like the video. And subscribe, like, and leave a comment. If you found us useful, let us know. If you think we could improve, let us know. If you hated everything we said, go ahead and tell us. It's not going to hurt our feelings. And as long as you don't slip into ad hominems, we'll post them and everything. So there is all of that. Tonight, we're going to talk about will as probably one of the most important things that you can develop. And one of the things that is least developed in modern human beings. So we're going to all do an experiment. I want everybody to take in a big breath. And then let it out. Completely empty your lungs for as far as you can. And when you get to the end, hold it there, pause there. And we're going to pause for about 15 seconds. And whatever you do, don't breathe unless you're starting to pass out. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and breathe. Now, for some people, that probably was really easy. For most people, surprisingly, 15 seconds is long enough to make you feel a little respiratory distress. So, the act of you not breathing is will. It took will to do that. And this tells us something. It tells us that our will is best developed at first with a little bit of stress. And we say that there are 3 kinds of will. Go figure. You have your affirming will, you have your denying will, and you have your reconciling will. And I am going to share the screen with you because through this week and next week, we are going to build the Enneagram of Will, a tool that you can use to actually develop your will, to know how to do this step by step. Can't do it all in 1 week. So we're just going to start with the basics. So a little screen sharing here. And voila, let me know when you can see this. Can everybody see it? Okay, good. This is your Enneagram. There's nothing there. But here is the triangle, which will represent the shock points. This is the entering and exiting shock up here, and we'll get to that last rather than first. The first point of will is actually the denying force, and that is to deny that which is negative, to deny that which you don't want, to deny that which is harmful to you, to deny what you want to do because it is better to do what you need to do. And this is difficult. So bear this in mind, and I'm going to stop this so I can stare at all of you. Think of this as, I mean, there's all sorts of different ways that this manifests. You have a bad habit. You smoke cigarettes. You drink alcohol. You eat sugar, whatever. There is this thing that you do that you want to not do. And you have to confront it. And you have to experience the discomfort of dealing with it. Now, here's the secret. This is the Sufi way. This is also Gurdjieff's way, but he was meaner about it than we are. The trick is when you come up against that discomfort, you just be with it. You watch it. You don't try and change it. You don't try and stop it. Whatever you do, do not try and repress it, because that makes it worse. You sit there with it. Breathing helps. For those of you who have your breath practice, this is the time that you want to do it. So we're going to do a little experiment with this. We are going to find something that we want to change within ourselves, a negative. Let's say you want to stop eating donuts. I don't care what it is. You want to stop chewing your nails. In order to do that, let's imagine that we have whatever it is in front of us. We're looking at our nails, we're looking at the donut, we're looking at a pack of cigarettes. I don't care, whatever it is. And imagine that you really want it and you're going to deny it to yourself. You're going to say, no, not that. You're going to feel the desire for it. That's the thing. You're going to feel the desire for it. And what you need to do is to sit with the desire and observe it with. So you observe the desire within yourself, and you don't act. You withhold action and just experience the desire and breathe and be present with it. Don't try and pull away from it. Be completely present with it. And after a little bit, the desire will lessen and most of the time go away. When you do that, you have strengthened your will. This is weightlifting for the soul. This is step one for being able to develop this sort of thing. Step two is you have done this and you have failed. You've picked up the donut and taken a bite. And now you feel terrible and you feel guilty. You must forgive yourself for what just happened. You must cut yourself some slack. You have to be able to make a mistake, to fail at the process, and create an okay space for that. If you beat yourself up for it, it makes it worse. So if you fail, your step is to give that failure to God, give that failure to the divine reality, however you perceive it. And don't be mean to yourself. That's my job. So don't be mean to yourself. If I'm not being mean to you, you don't deserve to have anybody be mean to you. And I'm never mean to you. So you got that going for you. Does that make sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
So step one, experience the desire without acting upon it, and experience it fully. Be completely present. Be in a state of self-remembering when you do this. Self-remembering and self-observation. You can do a little thing at the end of whatever it is you're doing that goes, okay, this happened. But self-remembering, being completely present to the desire for the donut, or the desire for whatever it is, and not acting upon it. If you fail, you must forgive yourself for that failing. Under no circumstances are you allowed to beat yourself up. Make sense? Questions so far? Why is this the first shock?
Because it's making, I guess, 2 habitual patterns.
Mm-hmm. And that would be?
One is the going for the temptation, and the other one is beating yourself up.
Yes. And we have solid scientific proof now. We knew this anyway, but now we have actual experimental data that shows beating yourself up makes it worse. And it's an infinite regress, because then you beat yourself up for beating yourself up. And then you beat yourself up for beating yourself up about beating yourself up. And on and on and on and on. And you've wasted all of that time that you could be practicing. So we have that. Yes.
Oh, sorry. It is interesting that you started the exercise with the exhale.
Yeah.
And the desire for the inhale. And I remember we did an exercise where we observed the pulse and how the body reacts.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a much, for the body, the pulse was, if I remember correctly, it was much gentler than holding the breath in.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's interesting, how that being the first shock, how they correlate.
Indeed. Yes.
I was wondering, you asked why that was the first shock, and I was wondering, is it because we're not in a state of self-remembering, that we need to place ourselves in that state and become aware of the distinct difference between experiencing the desire and not experiencing the desire, and seeing the difference? Is that the reason why
that is a good reason why? There's a little bit more to it, but by and large, that covers most of it. The other part is that this shock is the shock that you do through your own intention. This shock takes will. The second shock also takes will, but it also requires grace. And we'll get to that in a moment here. But you have to exert your will even to do this exercise. And will is like a muscle. If you don't use it, it gets really weak. If you do use it, it gets strong. And if you use it on a regular basis, it gets very strong. And the ability to deny yourself that which your ego desires is very important. And this is not something that is found in just one culture. All cultures have this. I remember stories of the Apache people. An Apache warrior would bury himself in Arizona or New Mexico in the sand, breathe through a straw, and wait for the cavalry to come galumphing by, sometimes hours later, and he would remain perfectly still so as to not give away his position. The cavalry goes by, he jumps up and goes, "Hi!" Scares them, they all run away. But things like that, the ability to deny your ego's desire to relieve discomfort is one of the first ways you learn this thing. But fortunately, it's not all about discomfort, because as you will see in a moment, we come here, and the second shock is to affirm what is positive. So we have deny what is negative, affirm what is positive. The second shock requires a little bit more than just grit, willpower, and ready to go. So we're going to stop this for a second. We lost somebody. Sorry that we lost you, whoever you are. May you find your way back, unless I bored you, in which case may you find a good show on TV. The second stage in developing will is to know the good thing that you need to move towards and to do that. So for instance, this is something that probably everybody listening to me could do a little bit more. And that is exercise. We need to move towards that. That's the process of moving towards physical health. We will ourselves into a position where we can increase our health. And sometimes that it looks like I am creating a set time during the day where I'm going to spend a half an hour working with clubs, or I'm going to walk for 45 minutes, or whatever you're going to do. And then you make sure that you're going to do it. Part of that is to use your own will, your own grit and determination to get your ass up out of the chair and into doing whatever it is you're doing. You're stretching, you're moving, you're getting the blood flow going, whatever, doesn't matter. And at the same time, in order to do this effectively, you must seek grace. This is that old higher power thing that people talk about. Doesn't matter what you think the higher power is, even if the higher power is your own deeper self. It's there somewhere. You are not God. Therefore, there is something greater than you. And you can connect with that in a certain way to aid you in doing that which is good for you. And this is an important part of this step that sets it aside from the first step. The first step, you don't need so much to call on a higher power. You need to find your own grit. In the second step, you need to realize that a little help would be beneficial. So it can be anything. You could make a prayer. If that's your thing, you can do that. Or you can just open yourself to the beneficence of the universe or to your highest good. I don't care how you frame it, just frame it and move towards that. So you've already gotten a good handle on the denying part, and you're not eating the damn donut. The next thing you do is make a healthy lunch, make a healthy dinner and eat that. And again, you are going to do it while paying attention, while being present to it. When I am preparing my meal, and I mostly prepare my meals from basic ingredients. I rarely have things that come out of boxes and packages. And I like, who was it? I think it was Michael Pollan who said, never eat anything that has a commercial. Brilliant advice. So I make my breakfast. I try and be present in making the breakfast. And then I am really present during eating the breakfast. I try not to distract myself, so that I can pay full attention to the pleasure of eating. You want the pleasure of eating. You want to create something that's yummy and delicious and has great mouthfeel, but is incredibly healthy for you. And the two are not incompatible. And then you enjoy every molecule of that food, consciously, intentionally. And so that reinforces moving towards the good. Make sense? Yes, no, maybe? Show of hands? Okay, I'm seeing a few nods. Thoughts on this so far? Somebody's got to have some thoughts. Come
I
on.
had
Yes.
thought. So when I'm trying to teach somebody to do something in stretching and moving, and they always find an excuse, and that's what I find even in my own work practice, is that you're always noticing there's something that's trying to distract you and withdraw you away from what you're supposed to do is right and proper. I find that you have to find the thing that it becomes a lifestyle thing. It's not just set aside time for exercise. So when people complain about low back pain and inflexibility, I said, well, every time you eat, sit on the floor. I don't care how you sit on the floor. You can put your back to the wall, you can have a cushion, whatever. But every time you get lower and lower to the ground, you stretch out your lower back and your hips and you move around because you're uncomfortable. But every time you sit, you're seated as low to the ground as possible. And I thought about this, that some people said, oh, I'll get a piano bench or a long table picnic bench and I'll use that as my seating area. And I said, no, that's actually kind of a cheat. And this is the other thing that we do. We find ways to cheat out of doing the exercise.
Yeah.
So getting down to the floor is uncomfortable and awkward. And then when you're down there, it took so much effort, you may as well spend a little time down there. And then with the practice of whatever it is that you choose to do, you got to spend a little bit of time there to actually feel it and feel what it feels like to be uncomfortable. And the repetition and the persistence actually brings you into a space where it's no longer uncomfortable and you don't notice it anymore. And something else will draw your attention that you want to bring your attention to. And I find that with the practice, that's what you've got to do with every practice. You've got to persist and sit with that discomfort over and over again, even if it's for 5 seconds. But you've got to keep persisting. And I think people give up too soon, and they're looking for a big result for a small amount of effort.
Yep. One of the ways to help support that is, and I'm jumping ahead of myself a little bit here, but that's okay, because there is nobody watching over my shoulder telling me I can't, is group support. So in a Sufi house, when you eat, everybody eats on the floor. You roll out this long cloth called a sofre, and all of the food is set on the cloth, and everybody, surrounds the cloth, and they sit down on the floor to eat. And that's what's expected of you. And of course, you're looking across the cloth at the 95-year-old guy who is sitting there completely comfortable when you're 20, and you're going, I cannot show my discomfort if he doesn't. So you have this group support, and we're going to get more into that later. So we live isolated lives, and sometimes the group support really adds something to it.
What about keeping the end in mind? So if you're doing a particular practice to achieve a certain result.
Yeah, and we're actually going to get to that. And
Okay.
keeping the end in mind is no, that's okay. That just means you're thinking, and we like that. Keeping the end in mind is very important. In the case of the donut, the end is to walk away from the donut, or the end is to actually allow the craving to subside and then walk away from the donut. You know you succeeded when you haven't thought about the donut in half an hour, 45 minutes. In the second part, the end is ongoing exercise. And the end is actually the dopamine hit of doing exercise, to put it in modern terms, because when you successfully exercise, it feels good. And your brain chemistry goes, yay. The old masters would describe it differently, but that's basically what happens. And so that reinforces. Now let's take a look. Okay, Osama has a question. Where are you, Osama?
I am right here.
There you are.
Here I am. Question, yes. So I've experienced, let's say in the context of the donut, right? I don't want, I'm trying to negate that which is negative. I don't want the donut. However, the desire is strong for I want it. And I go ahead and reach for the donut. And I'm conscious that I'm reaching for the donut. I didn't go to sleep and, okay, I'm just going to go for the donut and eat it. I am conscious. I'm awake. I'm going for that donut. I know I'm going for that donut. And I know I don't want that donut, but I'm going for that donut.
Yeah. And there's ways to
there?
deal with that. And that's part of that we're going to get into next week. But I will tell you right now that the secret to that is to break going for that donut up into small bits. So I'm going to go for the donut. First, I'm going to hold my hand up. I'm going to hold my hand up for 100 breaths. Then I'm going to reach my hand out. And then when my hand is reached out, I'm going to hold it for another 100 breaths. And then I'm going to put my hand on the donut. And I'm going to hold that for another 100 breaths. Then I'm going to lift the donut up. And I'm going to hold the donut up for 100 breaths. And then I'm going to move it towards my mouth. And I'm going to hold it in front of my mouth for 100 breaths. And then, and only then, if I still want to bite the damn donut, I can bite the donut. That's part of the secret. And next week, we'll talk about why that's the case. There is a Sufi practice that is like that, that is moving so slowly to something that you fully experience everything around the movement towards it or the movement away from it. And what this does is that it kills desire. It kills the mechanical desire for the object. That mechanical desire gets bored and it dies of boredom. And that's a sweet trick.
Thank you. That was amazing.
So we're going to delve very deeply into that next week. This week, we're just doing the shock points. Next week, we're going to do the moving lines. And that's where this gets really powerful. And then we're going to have the Enneagram of Will, and we are going to apply it in our lives and develop an adamantine will. And people will be shocked by our own personal power. And it will be cool. Frank has a question.
Yes, I was wondering, is it wrong to simply not focus on the desire and focus on, as a Sufi, maybe my beloved or something?
It's not wrong if you can, but if the desire is powerful, it will nag you. What we don't want to do is repress the desire. One of the few things that Freud got right was that the repressed returns. And if you try and repress the desire for the donut, for whatever the donut might be for you, it's going to come back and bite you. So if you can take your mind off of the donut and put it on the beloved, great. If the donut keeps creeping in and going, hey, yeah, the beloved is good, but donut, then you have to use this process.
I have another question.
Please do.
Let's say that not entertaining the desire and using some of the practices that I've learned through the nine-sided circle, such as some of those that Cherie has suggested, and you have with filling your mind up with the quality of life is the way I like to think about it. You know, if I have a desire that's really, it's nothing more than an imagination. So I can override that with my motor center by, as you suggested, breathing and applying focus to that I'm doing, distracting myself from my desire by checking my comfort, asking myself if I'm awake. And
if that works for you, great.
I'm just trying to put it all in context, if that, because this is something that you've taught before, and I'm just wondering, is this a different?
No, it all fits in together, but this is beyond desire. This is habit. Habit is deeper than desire. Habit is a mechanical one unit of programming. And this is a way to break the habit.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Bethany had something here. Let me pull this up. BB, why don't you just tell us, because I've got all of this stuff going on my screen these days, and it's hard for me to find things like the chat. So.
Well, I was just, in response to not eating the donut, I was just saying, like, what if you wanted to do something instead of not do something?
That's the second part. That's the sixth shock. And the sixth shock is all about doing what you need to do. And you mentioned in your post taking a walk. So you need to take a walk. You know that you have excuses for not taking that walk. I have to do the laundry. The kids need help, et cetera, et cetera. You set the time for the walk. And this is where moving towards the higher power comes in. And that is,
Yeah.
if it were me, I get up, I wake up in the morning and I go, I need to take a walk. I know I'm going to be weak with this. I'm going to come up with excuses not to take a walk. So I will actually make a formal prayer and setting of intention to take the walk. And I will remind myself several times that I'm going to take that walk. And every time I remind myself, I will call upon the higher power. And in my case, I'm calling upon al-haq, the truth, the real, to give me the energy that I need to get my ass out the door. And most of the time that works. And if it doesn't, I forgive myself. That last part is important because it will make it easier for you to do it the next time, because you will not be going, oh, if I fail, I'm going to feel so guilty. You're not allowed to feel guilty. Only the infidels are allowed to feel guilty, and none of you are infidels. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I'm over here trying to wrap my mind around how to not do something, but that's a different story. But
Yeah. Well, we'll work on it, and be sure to come back next Sunday, and so we can work on these things more in detail. And Frank, you had something else?
Oh, no, sir. I just didn't know. No, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I
great.
didn't lower my hand.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. Any other thoughts? Don't be shy.
Can I say
Yes.
something about guilt?
Feel free.
Coming at this from the Soto Zen perspective, guilt is part of the control mechanism that pushes you back towards those unconscious habits.
It's true. It's absolutely true. You have this entire mechanism designed to keep you asleep. Guilt is part of that. Shame is another part of that, which are, in fact, according to my teachers, going back for 1,000 years or more, the two most worthless emotions that human beings ever invented. We can easily do away with those and be perfectly happy. So no guilt, no shame.
Before I became involved with this group and I discovered that guilt was a waste of time, and it was just this, my own revelation awareness, experiencing that, and I thought, oh, I haven't got time for this guilt thing. I'm too busy. I've got other things I want to do. And I thought, oh, hold on a minute, what's going on here? And then I realized that what I had done was shift my focus on the don't do and don't want to focusing what I wanted.
Yeah.
So I had shifted away to go towards that end, as we're going to talk about. But the alternatives to a donut, I shifted towards them. I think, what if I tried that? What if I did this instead of feeling so sad about not having a donut, or feeling sad because I ate the donut?
Yeah. Yeah, we start with the donut because the donut is easy to access.
Oh,
You're
yes.
much more aware of pain than we are of pleasure. And so to get you to focus your will on something that would be painful for you is much easier than to get you to focus your will on something that's pleasurable for you. It's very weird, but it's true. Now, let me pull up the screen share again. Get up here. And we have the last one. This is the reconciling force. So we have the denying force down here at 3, the affirming force here at 6, and the reconciling force at 9. And this is both the 9 and the 0. to move towards that which supports your work. That means to have a goal that you're moving towards. Now, you could say, oh, my goal is to exercise. That's a short-term goal in a certain sense. This talks about the long-term goal. This is, I'm going to spend the rest of my life moving towards this goal. It's like enlightenment in this lifetime. You're not going to know if you got it till after you're dead. So you're going to work towards it your whole life. So moving towards that which supports your work with a capital W. That's the third part of this. And that means we've talked about the small goals versus big goals. And this is the biggest goal. This is the thing that you may not even get, but you have to move towards it. And there are all sorts of secrets to how to do this. None of which I'm going to tell you tonight. That's all going to be for next week, because that's where the moving lines come in. But this is in certain sense the highest level of it, if there's a level, which there isn't. But if there were, this would be it. And it's the 0 point because you start out realizing, oh, I have no will to move towards my work goals. That's what starts you on this path, is realizing that here are these things that lead to your own liberation that you don't have the energy to do. And then the 3 and the 6 shocks are where you're finding the energy to do this. Does that make sense? Yes, Nancy.
Yeah, how do you decide whether a goal actually makes sense, which is related, to this 9 point, sub goal?
We have discussed that before, and that's an entire hour's discussion in and of itself. But basically, you have to really be self-revelatory. You have to be telling yourself the truth about your life and what you want and what you don't have and what you would like to have, in a nutshell. And I'll put a link to that talk that we did on finding your meaning, finding your goals.
Okay, I was thinking of something a little smaller scale, like, you've set yourself up to take a walk. A walk is in general a good idea, but word has come out that the pollution's really bad today.
Then you walk in place.
Mm.
I mean, that's what I would do. If I
Okay.
can't go outside and walk because it's raining, I usually have a route in the house that I will walk
Mhm.
until I feel like I have walked far enough. And it can be circuitous. I will come here in my new place. I'll come out of my room and down the hall and into the dining room and kitchen and around the entire kitchen and back and down the other hall out to the door and then into the garage and around the garage and then back in and then rinse, repeat.
Mhm.
So I basically don't take no for an answer.
Nancy, you
Yeah.
could run on the spot really fast or walk really fast on the spot. You set a timer for 30 seconds and you'll get puffed out in 30 seconds if you try to do it as fast as you can. I've had to do that when I was in lockdown. Felt like a proper goose, but it really does work. And you do catch your breath and then set the timer again and go again, 30 seconds. And then you try and do it for a minute. And it's great fun, actually. If you try and do it with a buddy on a Zoom or a FaceTime or something like that, just do it on the spot. And then you realize there is no reason not to actually exercise. You actually get that done. And if you can do it as fast as you can, even just stamping your feet, that'll actually get you going.
And the other thing is that you set the intention to do the thing that you're going to do every day. So if I wake up and I look out the window and it's pouring rain, I'm not going to set an intention to walk. I'm going to set my intention to do something else to get exercise. So you have a certain amount of flexibility. And this is perfect because your mind will tell you that you must be inflexible. And you just gave us an example of that. I have to do the walk. And you don't have to do the walk. If you decide to do the walk, then you should do the walk. But you get to decide what you're going to do every day, every minute. And what is useful to ask is, what is the meta position to taking a walk, which is exercise? What is the meta position to exercise? Improving my health. What can I do today on this miserable rainy day to improve my health? That's all you have to do. Remember the law of requisite variety. Do you know the law? Who here knows the law of requisite variety? Don't everybody talk at once.
It's the most flexible part of the system controls the system.
Yes, exactly right. Thank you, Nancy. The
You're welcome.
element within a system that is most flexible controls the system. That means if you are the most flexible element in your system, then you have the control. If you are the most rigid, you have the least control. So that's the basic material of the evening. And like I said, next week, we are going to take this, add some stuff, and turn it into the Enneagram of Will, which you can use as a map to developing your own will. And it's very powerful and it's amazing and it will totally change your life. And I'm not even going to charge you $19.95 for it. You get it for free. You don't even have to show up because you can watch on the rebound, though we love it when you show up. So, Brian, what do you think? You're sitting there looking inscrutable. Let's see if we can actually hear you. There we go.
Recording in progress.
Can you hear me?
Whoa. That was scary.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Well, I was thinking that when you talk about walking around your house, an alternative to that would be a rowing machine.
You are absolutely right.
But I was also just thinking too, we say we strengthen the will like a muscle. And when we get lazy, it probably atrophies fairly quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
And that just comes from laziness or sleep causes the atrophy of the will.
Yeah. And we could say in your work, you are facilitating will with every client. Because they're finding ways to do something that is hard. They're pushing through resistance from their habitual self. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and also how about just starting small?
Yes, that's why we started you all out today with just not breathing for 15 seconds. And you all succeeded. My rule is that when I set things like this for people, I make sure that they succeed. I don't set tasks that are beyond them. because failure breeds failure. So, and I do that with my clients that I'm doing physical stuff with, exercise stuff with. I never let them work to failure because I don't want them to learn how to fail.
But very useful talk today. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Love having you back too.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, we always miss you when you're not here.
I'll try to make it more often.
That would make me happy, and it would make Noor happy. She's always going, "You think Brian's going to make it tonight?" And I'm like, I don't know. He could be busy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yusuf, you are very quiet and in the dark. What do you think? Cannot hear you. Says your mic is on, but alas.
No.
There. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, I just took the AirPods out. Yeah, couple things, I guess. If I'm gonna say something, yeah, I was gonna say something similar around like choosing what to deny first. So if you have a few things that need work, start with the easiest, and then
Start small. Start with the thing that you know you can beat.
Yeah.
It's like, when you were a kid in elementary school, you didn't go out and pick a fight with the biggest kid in class. You started smaller. Find the smallest bully.
the other thing. Can you hear me again? I think I.
Yep. Yeah, you're good.
Was something that when I am able to get consistent with the practice again, I'm keen on just doing it, even if I do it like terribly, or I'm like, as long as I set the time for it and do it. I don't know if that's a crutch sometimes, where it's just
No,
just
it's
do it
not.
no matter what, but that's yeah, I don't know if that gets into something like can allow yourself to get into to trance. I don't know if that's the right use of the word in that case, but
You
I
can
found it
allow
helpful
yourself to be perfect, because you are, and you probably never be perfect. I mean, I'm like 3 times your age and I'm still not perfect. I have so much not perfect it isn't even funny. So you probably will be doing things imperfectly forever. And there is nothing wrong with that. And I would rather have you do your practice, whatever it is, imperfectly than not at all.
Yep.
Yeah. Remember, Allah listens to your intention. If your intention is good, you get points for that, regardless of execution.
Love the good points.
Yes. Zainab, talk to us.
Yeah, I like this topic.
Good.
I can get caught up in the first shock. But I have a question. After the starting small, you've been doing something for a while, and you know the process, but then you get to the point that it's a new field and you haven't explored beyond that. The small wouldn't work. It's more like refining.
Yeah. That's why you have friends who will say, Zainab, you're ready to move to the next level. It's time to level up. You've got all of these experience points. Cash them in for the next level. You can tell I've been gaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's important to have not huge leaps necessarily, but steady incremental progress. So when you feel like, oh, the donut, I can sit and look at the donut all day long, and the desire is just no longer there. It's time to move on to the next thing. What's the next bigger thing past the donut? The eclair. You know. So any other thoughts, Zainab?
Let me ponder a little bit.
Okay, ponder all you want. We'll still be here. Suzanne, what do you think as somebody who is just coming in on us?
I'm just enjoying listening and taking it all in. So thank you for letting me be here and
Of course.
be a sponge.
Yeah, we are happy to have new people. It keeps us on our toes. It's like, oh my God, there's somebody new. I have to be on my best behavior. All right, who else have we? Sarah. Yeah, do I remember, Sarah, that you and I have a couple of friends in common, like Devin Borman?
I believe so.
Yes. Are you a fencer?
No,
Ah, too bad.
no, our son's got into the pointy sharp things.
Ah, I like your son already.
He's a good kid.
Yeah, I am a
And he's
fencer.
a lovely young man.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, which is how I first knew Devin.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I'm always happy when other fencers come by.
I was thinking about will as a practice.
Yes. And what do you think?
I mean, for one, if you fall back from it like any practice, you just get back on it.
Yes.
And success in practice will tend to deepen practice.
Yep. The thing about practice is that it is ongoing. Practice is a verb. It's not a noun. Practice is not something that you have. It doesn't sit in your living room next to the ficus. You know, practice is an ongoing doing. Who else? Bethany, any last thoughts?
It was a good talk. I'm looking forward to next week and really trying to figure out how to put some of these things in practice.
Good. I'm going to be really looking forward to your thoughts on next week's talk too. So hopefully you can make it. And if you can't, please listen to it on the replay and tell me, because you have enough of a background in this material that you'll have insights for us.
Oh, thank you.
So Carl, what do you think? Are we nuts or what?
Well, I think that you are very good at the nuts and bolts.
I like
that's the nuts that I think we're talking about here. And that's important. The whole subject of will. What comes to my mind is that behind it, one needs to seek out one's self-motivation and get in touch with one's self-motivation, which has to do with how serious one is about making progress. If one can tie into that as a sort of a backbone to avoid procrastination and the laziness that we're so good at, I think that's helped me a lot. This is an important subject because we're trying. It ties in with freedom and the ability to do, which we cannot do if we're only a reactive and mechanical being. So this is all tied in with our liberation And of course, Gurdjieff was said in one of his aphorisms, and I wish I could quote it, but the greatest that a man can attain is to be able to do. And that's what this will that we're trying to develop can be used for. It's the gateway to a new life. So that's what I have to say
Yeah.
about that.
I'd say you are absolutely accurate and dead on with that. And you make a very important point. No matter how much I don't want you to eat that donut, there is no meaning in that. The only meaning is when you choose not to eat the donut. There is nothing that I can do other than be moral support for your choice. And if I try and choose for you, we will both fail miserably. So, James, you're so quiet these days. It worries me.
I have ideas, don't worry. I'm full of them.
Okay. Lay
And a
one on.
few, well, what's kind of percolated, first thing that came to mind throughout the talk, when we're trying to deny the negative and we relapse. Now, as you said, there is the totally self-defeating, pointless, self-punishing mea culpa trip you can go on. Could the opposite of that be saying, okay, I've relapsed, and not because I'm a bad person, but because I don't fully understand yet my own motivations and what's behind my habits and addictions, and then treat each relapse as a gathering of new information as to
That
what
would
my
be perfect.
actual situation.
That would be absolutely perfect.
So you swap the self-hate for self-knowledge.
Yes.
As long as you make an opportunity of self-knowledge at it to keep the process going.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be the first thing that really occurs. And I've known so many people, including myself, who when we relapse at whatever, it's just a big guilt party, self-hate, blah, 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 blah. And that just makes us hate our situation, hate our experience, want to manipulate our experience away from us and start the whole habitual cycle again. Now that kind of ties in with when you start to affirm the positive and you start to move into a more expansive thing that's more conducive to self-knowledge. If you're going to affirm the positive successfully, once again, you have to explore your capabilities and possibilities in your situation. And it's kind of what Carl was saying before got me thinking along these lines. Then all that feeds, or hopefully would feed into the reconciliation of doing your largest goals, your best work, your grand plan, your big perspective. So for me, the whole thing kind of feels like to make it work, an increase in self-knowledge. Would that be accurate?
Yes, that would be accurate.
Okay. And like I said, it just contrasts in my mind the guilt and shame and everything that's actually built on robotic obscuration of self-knowledge.
Yes. Yeah, the guilt and shame are part of your mechanical nature that is designed to keep you asleep. Feeling guilt is an invitation to sleep because we have to get away from the pain of the guilt.
Yes.
And it will lead to, it's a downward spiral. Now, we're not talking about becoming a psychopath here, because you can still have a conscience and not feel guilty.
And that's the only thing, no, it's not even a quibble, but in looking at a lot of material recently on narcissism, they talk about the difference between unhealthy shame and healthy guilt. But here they describe guilt as an acknowledgement of what I've done to the other person as in their real, as a real subject. Whereas shame is a massive, oh, I'm filth. A massive
I mean, that's a nice
self-convulsion.
distinction. I make a slightly different distinction, but it all works. It's the understanding that sometimes you screw up. I mean, there have been times when I have said something to Noor that hurt her feelings. Didn't mean him to, but I looked and I went, oh my God, that hurt her feelings. Now, I don't beat myself up over it. I don't even feel bad in the sense of, oh, mea culpa, but I feel the need to make it better for her, to relieve her discomfort, to help her understand that it wasn't meant in the ways that she took it. And there are times when you just screw up, in which case you can say, I'm sorry. You can apologize from a heartfelt place without feeling guilt about it. But I associate guilt with the beating up part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just quibbling over language then.
Yeah, this is good distinctions. It's good to understand that there are these nuances to it all. So please quibble.
Yeah, but I just, because the shame-driven narcissist is when they do experience their shame, it's still not really acknowledgement of the other person or of their own higher potentials that they may have just sabotaged. It's just just a falling back into the shame that's beneath the surface of their particular style of narcissism.
Yeah, you can replace guilt with compassion. That's my theory.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what I move towards. For my particular weird personality, that works well. But there are other people who are going to find slightly different motivations.
And I could probably say more, but I tend to do a lot of that anyhow.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, we're getting on towards time for me to make dinner.
Fair enough.
Just for myself.
Let the man have
Pretty
his dinner.
lonesome, but I'll do it anyway. All right. So I think we have heard from everybody. Let me switch over to, there we go. We are now in Brady Bunch mode, as I like to call it. And thank you all for being here and sticking with us to the very end. If you're watching this video and you have questions, especially questions about the next part of this, consider asking them in the comments of this video, and we will attempt to address them next time, because I am interested in what you think. And so, without any further ado, let's wave goodbye to all the good people out there in YouTube.
Thank you.
And we will see you next time.